Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
And Dallas week is in the books with the Philadelphia Eagles going down to Jerry World and making mincemeat out of the Cowboys in the second half especially. After coming out flat, a little flat out of the bye in the first half. But sure enough, even with the Eagles coming out flat, they took care of business, winning this one 37-9 easily. And on to 9-1 they are, with the Chicago Bears coming here to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, which should be another win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're looking at 10-1. And as we're looking around the rest of the NFC, Saints continue their winning ways. They're 8-2. The Vikings beat the Rams, a huge win. They're 8-2. But the Eagles continue to be in the driver's seat as we're in the midst of Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for that.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
And yeah, good day, ladies and gentlemen, to all in the Philadelphia sports world. Here we sit, Thanksgiving this Thursday. Personally, my favorite holiday. A little simpler than Christmas, I will say. And here we are in Philly. We have a lot to be thankful for right now, the way this Eagles team is playing. The way they, again, 9-7 in the first half. And I mean, I wasn't too worried. I mean, I'm thinking, they're coming out flat against the bye. It's kind of reminiscent of the 49ers game a few weeks before that, where I guess that was after the Carolina game. Maybe the Eagles had a few days extras. I don't know. The Eagles, it kind of came out a little flat against the Niners, and they kind of did here against the Cowboys. But the second half, they turned it on, and given some odd circumstances where they didn't really have a certified kicker, what can I say? Carson Wentz wasn't having his best game. What can I say? They blow the Cowboys out of the water. And you know what? I'm sick of it. I mean, not to the point where, because this is great. Here we are, Thanksgiving. The Cowboys are shot. All right? They were shot last week against the Atlanta Falcons when they lost to them 27-7. And at that point, I'm thinking, well, come on. Without Ezekiel Elliott, they're lost. Dak looks lost. The Eagles embarrassed Dak Prescott. I saw a meme of the week, kind of a Looney Tunes thing at the end of an episode of Looney Tunes with Dak's face in the middle. Dak's all, folks. Da, 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 or whatever, however the song goes. After this game with the Philadelphia Eagles, you know what? Cowboys, they want to make excuses that, oh, well, we didn't have Dak Prescott. We didn't have Tyrone Smith or whatever, Sean Lee. And look, the Eagles only just got Ronald Darby back this week. Jason Peters is out for the season. Jordan Hicks out for the season. Two major blows in their respective positions. Darren Sproles, gadget player, not a full-time running back, but still, it's as if they've been better without without Darren Sproles. I've continued to say that, even though Darren Sproles can be a weapon for sure. I mean, spare me the whole injury thing, because I do want to mention early in the season. I mean, albeit it was early in the season, the Cowboys got their doors blown off when they were healthier against the Denver Broncos. And as far as personnel goes, even though it was several weeks later in the season, the Eagles blew Denver's doors off. So just because you have Ezekiel Elliott out there doesn't mean you've been infallible of a team, and it doesn't mean the Eagles were going to lose that game. Now, to be fair, I mean, I've said I've afforded that as we were going through the season. If Ezekiel Elliott was going to play that game originally, I had it as a loss. Many of us had it as a loss, but things change. This Eagles team, they keep winning. Now, it's not as if they've been beating elite team after elite team. Don't get me wrong. But whoever's on the schedule, week in, week out, they've been consistent. They haven't had any clunkers. They sort of had a clunker of a first half on offense, mainly. But again, that second half, different story. We're breaking it down here on the Tyler Werner Show. And again, we continue to look around the landscape of the NFC. Because the Eagles, they continue to win. They remain in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. Meanwhile, the Saints have done it 8 weeks in a row as well, as the Eagles have. The Saints are 8-2. The Vikings, I'm impressed with the Vikings. Now, they had a bit of a home field edge, I guess, against the Rams. But a win is a win with Case Keenum at quarterback. I mean, their defense was for real, man. I mean, that offense of the Rams, that was the highest scoring offense in the league, points-wise, points per game-wise. And a lot of that is due to Todd Gurley and the campaign he's having this year. That defense holds them to 7 points. So, there you go. If the Cowboys had Ezekiel, just because, that doesn't necessarily mean the world. I don't know how it would have played out if Ezekiel was out there and if Sean Lee was out there. I still think this Eagles team it's a better team than the Cowboys. That's the bottom line. You play with who you have out there. The Eagles, they have injuries too. They've been dealing with injuries throughout the season, and they've been dealing with them very well, resoundingly well. They're 9-1, okay? And a lot of that is due to the play of the quarterback. Carson Wentz against the Cowboys, he didn't have his greatest game. But week in, week out, he makes plays. This season, he is playing like a top 3 quarterback in the league. I continue to say that week in, week out. He's consistently making plays. His skill set, he doesn't have any major weaknesses. The Cowboys, meanwhile, Dak Prescott against this Eagles front seven got exposed. And it just goes to show you, without Ezekiel Elliott, he can get exposed. He doesn't look the same. He doesn't look like he did last year. Had a bit of a sophomore slump. I called it. Many of us called it. I don't want to take sole credit for it or blow my own horn or anything. I'm just saying I'm not surprised. Carson Wentz, to me, is the real deal. And look, if you want to complain about not having Ezekiel for this game, well, you know what? Maybe if... just don't lay your hand on women like that. That's the bottom line. All right? there's enough evidence for the NFL to warrant a 6-game suspension. I'm not going to get in the whole litigation thing with the courts as to whether or not, they can't prove it. Look, there's enough evidence on the table that there was the leeway for him to get suspended. Take the freaking suspension. All right? Now you fought this suspension. No more emergency injunctions or whatever. Now, home stretch the season, like Jod Mann says, the real season does not begin until there's frost on the pumpkins. And while maybe down in Dallas you're not going to have that, you get the point. When you need Ezekiel at the most now, maybe, you don't have him. Way to go. And then Jerry Jones, it's like he's too concerned about, Roger Goodell not being the commissioner. And look, I'm not a fan of Roger Goodell either. But it seems like this Cowboys franchise, it seems like they're more concerned about other things. More concerned about, the whole standing for the national anthem. We're going to kneel before the one game and whatever else. They're too concerned about all this other BS. This Eagles team, they're just concerned about winning the next game, winning the next play, winning the next drive. That's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It's great. It's refreshing to watch this Eagles team week in, week out take care of business. It's a depleted Cowboys team. Yeah, you could say that. They're shot. But you know what? The Eagles, they were missing some players as well due to injury and not suspension that they've fought throughout the season. Look, players go down. The Eagles, it's like they don't miss a beat with these players they've been missing. I mean, it's just, again, everybody's getting banged. The Eagles have had their major injuries. They've been fine without them. It's amazing. Cowboys up. It's like the end of the world. They're a totally different team without these three guys. So, that's how it is. The Eagles, yeah, maybe they don't have a superstar running back. Although J.J. had a great season last year, as Blunt kind of did in his own right as far as touchdowns. And you got rookie Corey Clement, kind of tearing it up at times. Wendell Smallwood, it's like he's an afterthought. Did he even get a touch that game? And Kenyon Barner at fourth string. I mean, this committee of running backs. I'm on record saying I'm not the fan of running back by committees. But if this Eagles team, however they're going to do it, if they're going to rack up 215 rush yards a game, I don't care if you have Joe Blow and Joe Bag of Donuts out there doing it. And whoever else. I don't care if you have 4 running backs doing it. If you're getting 215 yards on the ground, I don't care if you're using 1 running back or using 4. You're in business, my friend. That is... what are the numbers here? Jay Ajayi, again, he ripped off another big run. And... If it's even once a game like that, you'll take that any time, really. But, hey, this running back by committee thing for the Eagles, I guess it's working, isn't it? Ezekiel Elliott's missing for the Cowboys. Yeah, Alfred Morris, he ripped off a couple decent runs. But other than that, against this Eagles run defense that is first in the league, which, again... to me, leads me to say, hold your thought on the whole, if Ezekiel Elliott was out there, they would have tore up hold your thought on that. I'd like to see that. One of the best running backs in the league against the number one rushing defense. But the Cowboys, without Ezekiel, okay, they got Alfred Morris, who, he had a great season 5 years ago. Keywords 5 years ago. But the Eagles, on the other hand, all right. Yeah, Darren Sproles they're missing. Not like he was a star running back or anything for the Eagles, but let's look. Okay, Zuka, their running game's in the toilet. Eagles, they got this committee thing. J.J., 7 carries, 91 yards. Of course, most of that is due to that big run that he had. Like Garrett Blunt, 13 carries, 57 yards, 4.4 average, decent. Corey Clement, 6 carries, 50 yards, 8.3 average, and he had a touchdown. I believe he also had a receiving touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Carson Wentz, 6 carries for 13 yards, not too much, but, whatever. And Kenyon Barner, 1 carry for 4 yards. So, boom, baby. About, I think, 215 yards on the ground. Hey, you do that, I don't care how you do it. That's great. Cowboys, what could they really do? They had a couple, but they, other than the first half where they got in the field goal range and kicked a few field goals, they couldn't do diddly.
He starts to come and then he pulls out.
Just the defense getting to Dak Prescott. What was it? 3 interceptions. Sacking him. He is not the same guy. Without Ezekiel Elliott and against this Eagles defense, they owned Jerry World. And that running game again for the Eagles, it didn't really get cooking until the second half. I was sitting there. I was a little frustrated in the first half, as I'm sure many of us were. Like, what are they doing? Try to establish the run game a little bit. And I'll admit, I was even like try to get one of these running backs going. A lot of 3 and outs. I don't know if the Eagles, they just came out rusty. They came out flat. But second half rolls along, and what more can you say? They really turned it on then. Is it a concern that they came out flat? If they come out flat like that against a better team, how do things pan out? I venture to say that, look, it was the bye week. Although the defense, for the most part, came out fine in the first half, the Eagles' offense was rusty. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. That they're not, like, for instance, they're not going to come out like that against the Bears next week. I venture to say that. Bye week. This Eagles team, again, they've been rolling. And, to me, the way they beat Denver, they look like a team that they wanted to line up and play next week. They didn't need a bye week. They just wanted to keep playing. The way they tore up the Broncos. But you know what? They come off the bye, maybe a little rusty, but they're back in the groove, I think, here. They got Chicago, who they should win easily. I wonder what the line's going to be for that comes Sunday as we get into the Thanksgiving weekend. They got Chicago. They got on the road to Seattle after that. Hey, folks, Seattle just lost again at home. I believe it was against I believe it was at home, but yeah, it was against the Falcons. 31-34. And a few weeks ago, the Redskins took care of them in Seattle. And the Redskins, they're up and they're done. They're not going to make the playoffs. winnable game for the Eagles. And Seattle's secondary now is decimated. Legion of Doom. They're like all out for the season. And the Rams, I mean, tough game. Maybe the Eagles lose that one. Because I don't think the Eagles are going to, it's a stretch saying they're going to win out. For sure. So, but they could certainly win one of those games. So I like what I'm seeing here. I like what I'm seeing. It's the Tyler Werner Show. We're going to hit our first break. Come back more on the other side. I want to look again around the NFL. I want to go down the schedules of the Saints and the Vikings again. The Eagles are in the driver's seat. And are perhaps the Saints, these teams maybe perhaps due for a loss? While at the same time the Eagles on their West Coast road trips might also be due for a loss. We'll take a look around the NFL. Before we take the break, I'll lead us into the break with this in honor of, to me, the Dallas Cowboys' playoff hopes for the season. It is the Tyler Werner Show. And yes, the Eagles took care of business against the Cowboys and, to me, effectively buried their season. They look like they're shot, just like they looked against the Falcons this week. Kind of worse. So, barring a major miracle of the ages, this Cowboys team, no playoffs for them this year. It's the Tyler Werner Show, and we'll return right after this.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
The champion of game day catering is the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show, Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
We prepare our balls over time, and that's the essence of the preparation.
On top of that, another trademark of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs is Brady's signature rubbing process.
When I pick balls out, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect. What is a concern is the texture of the balls, and again, that's the point that Tom hit on hard.
The champion of all game day catering dishes is Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show.
It's good. Love to eat turkey like a good boy should, 'cause it's turkey to eat. So good.
And we're back on the Tyler Werner Show.
Clapping's messing my head up, man.
As we are in the midst of Thanksgiving, it's Thursday night. Well, this Thursday in general. I guess I'm used to saying Thursday night. Yeah. That's usually about the time when I dig into my turkey on Thanksgiving. Don't know about everybody else. A lot of people, they do it at lunch. This year, actually, I'm digging into my turkey actually for lunch and dinner. I got 2 places to go this year. Things are a little different for me this year. as to where I'm going and to what the family plans are for different sides of the family. So I know one thing, though, the Cowboys game, kind of another year where I don't think it means a whole lot because the Eagles, I think, effectively ended their season, as I was kind of alliterating it before the break. This Eagles team, whether they were rusty in the first half on offense or whatever, the second half they just exploded on the Dallas Cowboys. And just to kind of look at the playoff picture now, that puts the Cowboys in a big predicament, obviously. They now sit at 5-5. While the Eagles top the division at 9-1 atop the NFC. They have, besides teams in the lead of their division at 8-2 or 7-3, Seahawks are 6-4, Lions are 6-4, Panthers are 7-3, Falcons are 6-4. So the Cowboys are certainly on the outside looking in right now. And I don't, even if they finish 9-7, I don't know if that's going to be enough to get them in. 9-7 could get in as a wild card, I think, but Cowboys, it's an uphill battle. They are lost without Ezekiel Elliott. Unlike the Eagles, who've been missing a few or even several players all season long, somewhat rather key players. The Cowboys, they can't hold together. And that's on them. So, Cowboy fans, you want to make excuses, go ahead. Continue to live by excuses. And you want to wish the Eagles losses, and fine, whatever. Your season's done. All right? You guys are history. This Eagles team essentially has this division locked up, theoretically, and it's only November 21st. Yeah. So, way to go. All right. As we do, always around this time of the Tyler Werner Show, we're going to go around the NFL, as we always do, and give my top 5 thoughts around the league. And this would now be Week 11, I believe. Week 11 edition. As everyone has now had their bye week, I believe, as well. Everyone has played 10 games. Bye weeks are over. Everyone's in action week in, week out now, I believe. And let's take a look around the league at what happened in Week 11. First of all, how the mighty have fallen. Thought number 5 around the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs lose to the New York Giants 12-9. I believe they've lost 4 of their last 5, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, what is going on with the Chiefs? Andy Reid.
Time's yours.
What? I mean, to the Giants, this team lost to? The Giants, who have been dead in the water for much of the year, it seems? They only put 9 points up on the Giants and lose in overtime 9-12. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. What's kind of funny about this is that they're still 2 games ahead in their division. The 6-4 record, the Chargers and the Raiders both 4-6, but this division is turning into not what we thought it would be this year. That's thought number 5. Let's go to thought number 4 around the NFL this week in football action. How about the Chargers? Put up a 54 spot on the Bills. The Bills have lost 3 straight. They were 5-2 once upon a time. And in the driver's seat, they were 5-2 with the Patriots. Could they be choking away another playoff berth? I mean, it seems like a lot of times the Bills, they start out pretty well, and then mid-season they start to fall apart. They've lost 3 straight. They're 5-5. And what's kind of miraculous about them losing 3 straight, they're still tied for 6th place, the 6th seed wild card spot right now in the AFC with the Ravens, who are also 5-5. But I believe the Ravens have the tiebreaker over them right now. So, Bills, they might want to get together. Meanwhile, the Chargers putting up that 54 spot. They're 4-6 right now. And while that may not be good enough to be, they might have to come close to winning out the rest of the way. Could they be getting hot at the right time in the wild card race that is somewhat open in the AFC? Thought number 3 around the NFL this week for me, anyhow, is the Pittsburgh Steelers taking care of business on Thursday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans, defeating the Titans 40-17 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh moving to an 8-2 record. Definitely important. The Titans, they fall to 6-4, so they are still in the thick of it when it comes to the wild card race. Right now, they would hold the 5th seed in the AFC if the playoffs start today. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they could be making a run, perhaps at home field advantage this year. They got the Patriots a little later down the road here, which may very well be the deciding factor in that. But right now at 8-2, they're definitely looking at like a first-round bye or something. That is thought number 3 around the league. And then thought number 2 this week. It was a big one, ladies and gentlemen, between the Seahawks and the Falcons on Monday Night Football. It's Tuesday now. The Atlanta Falcons defeat the Seahawks in Seattle, 34-31. A bit of a thriller. Seahawks defense might be falling apart here without the Legion Boom. This is a huge one, especially for the wild card race, because both teams now sit at 6-4. But if both of these teams finish with the same record at the end of the year, the Falcons have the advantage. They have the tiebreaker. And while it's kind of an uphill battle for them, given the Lions are also 6-4, and the Seahawks are still 6-4 as well, they certainly help their case. They got the Panthers ahead of them in that division as well as the Saints. And the number 1 thought I had around the NFL in Week 11. Talk about a big win with playoff implications, perhaps home field advantage implications, depending how things play out down the stretch here. The Minnesota Vikings shut down and defeat the visiting Los Angeles Rams, 24-7. Big win for the Vikings. Vikings defense came to play. Vikings moved to 8-2, while the Rams moved to 7-3, as we were discussing. Rams, I believe, were the highest scoring team in the league heading into this game. And of course now that stat goes to the Philadelphia Eagles.
That is why keep chopping the wood.
Who keep chopping the wood in the NFC and sit at 9-1. It's hard to fathom how that has happened, how that has occurred, how they are 9-1 right now. But it is very much so a reality. A lot to be thankful for right now for this incredible season we're witnessing with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it's one of these things. Is it destiny? Is it? In a sense. I mean, I'm not the most superstitious or whatever. But at Carson Wentz's home state in North Dakota, where the Super Bowl decided all this season is going to be played in Minnesota. Carson Wentz is, kind of territory growing up. He was a Vikings fan, of course. Coming from, he stuck with his team, unlike a lot of people around here who jump ship to the Cowboys or whatever because the Eagles never won a Super Bowl, yada, yada. But anyhow, Carson Wentz could be playing for the Super Bowl in his second pro season. And could very much so, for this Philadelphia Eagles team, be playing in the Super Bowl. This is quite a season, shaping up to be quite a season. But to the New Orleans Saints, are the New Orleans Saints maybe a monkey wrench in this thing, or the Vikings? I think the Eagles are better than the Vikings. And I venture to say they're better than the Saints too, although having Drew Brees is certainly, with playoff experience, with Super Bowl experience, is certainly important. Do you fear the Saints? Well, most likely they would have to come to Philadelphia, because could this Philadelphia Eagles team at this point, I mean, I've said 13 wins as of late. Could it be 14 now? I'm curious. Because look, I'll give them. I'll give a loss on the West Coast against either Seattle or the Rams. Perhaps the Rams, because if the Falcons and the Redskins can go to Seattle and beat beat them, especially with the Seahawks now in a dire situation in the secondary, where they brought Byron Maxwell back for a second rodeo in Seattle. I mean, Seattle, they got some injuries on that defense. And that's unfortunate. They can't, maybe they don't have the necessary replacements for them. They may still be a factor down the stretch here. They may still land themselves the wild card spot. But I'm feeling maybe if the Eagles are going to lose a game, it might be more likely to be to the Rams now. I think the Rams, although they lost to the Vikings, they might be the better team coming down the stretch here. And other than that, I mean, they should beat the Bears this weekend. They should beat the Giants after their West Coast trips. And they should beat the Raiders on Christmas night at 8:30. And the Cowboys at the... I mean, I don't know. Maybe by that point, that game's not necessary. I don't know. Because the Saints' schedule is a little tricky down the road. I want to pull that up and just go down these other remaining schedules of teams around the NFC before we go to the break. And I know we've been doing that the last few weeks on the Tyler Werner Show, it seems. It's a week-to-week league, though. See how things project and see if this Eagles team, again, see if maybe the Saints or the Vikings will hang with what the Eagles are doing here. Because, even throwing a loss in the mix, because, the other week ago, the Saints, they proved me wrong when they destroyed the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. A game where I thought, the Bills were going to bounce back and win. And, 2 losses later, the Bills have definitely, dropped down the power rankings. That's for sure. Sixers in other news right now. 9-7 record. Didn't even really get to talk about the game last week when it came to Joel Embiid having a career day and everything. They had that tough test against the Golden State Warriors, a measuring stick game, if you will, which they had a lead in for sure, but ended up losing that one to the pedigreed Warriors team. But of course, on Monday, they bounced back. They beat the Utah Jazz handily, 107-86. And they didn't need a huge game. Joel Embiid on the scoring front for this game. Ben Simmons with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. Joel Embiid, 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists. J.J. Redick with 20 points. Taking care of business pretty easily in this game. Of course, coming up, they have the Portland Trail Blazers Wednesday night, 7 p.m. And meanwhile, the Flyers, can they snap this 4-game winning streak, please? What has been up with this team? There's back-to-back shutout losses against the Minnesota Wild. Come on, you mix in a win here, big guys.
I agree.
Hopefully they do so tonight when they they host the Vancouver Canucks. And then a back-to-back tomorrow, Wednesday night, they're at the Islanders. Let's see if they can start putting some wins together. We'll be right back in just a moment. You are listening to the Tyler Werner Show right here during Thanksgiving week.
Okay, Rocco, pretend I'm the girl that you want to ask out on a date.
How about maybe you and I, maybe we go out together, get something to eat, I don't know, maybe laugh a little bit, who knows, I don't know, would you like to maybe, you want me to go out together? What do you think? Would you like to?
You need to make more eye contact and you sound way too nervous.
You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Having a tough time asking out ladies? You need to see Clubber Lang for a lesson.
Hey, woman. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I tell you what, bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Build confidence with the ladies like never before with Clubber Lang's dating services. The most highly recommended in all of the Delaware Valley.
I am ranked number 1. That means I'm the best.
It's no big news flash that many people, you included, eat as a way to medicate themselves. You can choose to worry about it or not. You can choose to panic about your situation or not. It's clear what you must do in order to make important changes.
5 letters here. RELAX. Relax. We're going to be okay.
In order for you ever to effectively figure out and map how to get to where you want to go, you have to first know exactly where you are starting.
RELAX. Relax.
You have to be willing to change what you're doing. you can change your behavior.
And we're back on the Tyler Werner Show. We're closing things out here soon. Philadelphia Eagles. Your Philadelphia Eagles here in the Philadelphia area. Should be your Philadelphia Eagles. 9-1. And again, continue to silence many critics. However, I guess there still remain some critics. And I'm going to call out one of them right now. Once again.
It's time for Tyler Werner's Call Out of the Week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. What's the matter with you?
Loser! You're a loser!
Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
Thank you, Adam Sandler. Yeah, again, who cares a lot what Skip Bayless has to say, but when he's going to say stupid things like, oh, the Cowboys would have defeated the Eagles convincingly if they weren't missing Tyrone Smith or whatever and Ezekiel Elliott and Sean Lee. Come on. Pure speculation again. I don't even know why people watch this guy or listen to this guy. But that's what he tweeted on Twitter, I guess, after the game. After his butt hurt over his Cowboys getting their butt handed to him on a silver platter in the second half. Look, he's been saying how Dak Prescott is, better quarterback than this game proves it. Even when Wentz wasn't at his best in the first half. All right, this game proves it. Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz is the significantly better quarterback. I think it showed. That's, Dak, I'm not saying Dak is terrible or anything, but he is certainly no Carson Wentz. And for Skip Bayless, I don't know how this guy has the kind of job he does to say these kinds of things. Says these things for a reaction or whatever. Or to spin those wheels of his Cowboys fanfare or whatever and his anti-Eagle sentiments. Go ahead, Skip. 9-1, I say to you. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott would have made that much of a difference. I'm not saying he wouldn't have made a difference, but as far as the result goes, this Eagles team had their number. And again, considering that the Eagles have been missing players all year and are missing significant players right now, that is an outlandish thing to say. But then again, maybe I shouldn't be surprised because Skip Bayless says way too many outlandish things.
I agree.
Especially this year. Like when Nick Foles gets strip sacked in the one game because the Eagles are demolishing a team and Skip Bayless wants to blame Carson Wentz, who was on the sideline for the rest of the game because the Eagles had it in the bag. Anyhow.
You got a cucumber in your rectum? Loosen up!
It is Thanksgiving time here. The real season has definitely begun here in the NFL. Some teams you're starting to see come down to earth. Like the Chiefs, like the Bills. And certainly the Cowboys without a few players, I guess you want to say. But the Eagles are not one of them. They are consistent week in, week out. They haven't had any clunkers. That's what it's all about with this team. This team's for real. I want to go down the schedule again. I want to for the Saints and the Vikings and the Rams now that they lost to the Vikings, they're on the outside looking in. But I've kind of already went down the Eagles' schedule. And at now, we're looking at worst 13-3. Now that this Cowboys game turned into an easier one in recent weeks, we're looking at 13-3. And now, as well, that the Seahawks banged up, and that game looks like more of a winnable game in Seattle. We're at worst looking at 13-3, folks. I don't think that's a stretch of the imagination at all. And the case can be, very much so, they may win 14 games. But let's look around. Let's see if anybody else can maybe win 13 games, starting with the Saints, who I would think might be most likely to do that. Well, this week, the Saints are at the Rams. Sunday, 4:25 game. Now, given this is at St. Louis, Saints are going east to west here. Rams maybe a little bit more in a must-win situation here. I say the Rams win this game. That would put both teams at 8-3. Now, I could be wrong. The Saints, who knows? The Saints almost lost to the Redskins this week, but the Redskins got to be the least clutch team in the NFL to blow that 15-point lead in, the last 6 minutes of play?
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, now Kirk Cousins just sounds like a goof when I hear that soundbite. When at the time it's like, oh, the Redskins, Kirk Cousins. Come on. I called it. It's a fraud team. Anyhow, the Rams, Rams win this game. Or at least I think they do. Next week, Panthers at the Saints. Give the Saints a win there. Tough division game. The following week, the Saints at the Falcons. Maybe a loss there, I think. Because they have 2 games against the Falcons. And I venture to say they lose one of them. I would suppose more likely the one at Atlanta. In between those 2 Falcons and Saints games, the Jets at the Saints. Saints win that. Last game of the season, Saints at the Buccaneers. The Saints should win that. So, there's a chance maybe that the Saints finish 13-3. But I think they're bound for a loss against the Rams this week and one against the Falcons. So, I'm going to go with 12-4. And again, they didn't look too good against the Redskins. But the Redskins certainly blew it. And ended up losing that in overtime. So, Let's go to the Vikings. So, I think the Eagles, they have the edge there. I think they'll get home field advantage. Even if they win 13 games, I think more likely than not, that will be enough. All right, so Minnesota, sitting at 8-2, also right now, along with the Saints. They're at the Lions this week. That's a tough game. Although it is a revenge situation, perhaps, for the Vikings, who lost to the Lions earlier in the season. Lions are pretty good. They're vying for a wild card spot. If maybe not somehow trying to pull off a comeback and win the division. Not that I think it'll happen, but Vikings at the Lions, it's a tough one. The following week, the Vikings at the Falcons. And the week after that, the Vikings at the Panthers. That's got to be, right off, that's got to be, probably 2 losses there. 2 of those 3 games, losses. Especially since I think they're due maybe for a come down game this week, or just a loss in general. Then at the the Bengals at the Vikings. Vikings at the Packers, Bears at the Vikings. All winnable games there for the rest of the way. Let's see, and then we're looking at maybe 12-4 at best. So there you go. Rams schedule. Rams now 7-3. Saints at the Rams. Rams winning. Should very well be a Rams win. Well, I mean, like I said, Rams coming off a loss. And maybe more of a situation where they could use a win like this in the race. Saints coming across. East to west. So I give the Rams the edge there. Rams at the Cardinals, still, they might win that. Eagles at the Rams, I'll even give the Rams a win there. Rams at the Seahawks. Desperate Seahawks team, maybe, at that point. Division game. Seahawks, maybe they win that one. Rams at the Titans the following week. That's a tough game. And then the 49ers at the Rams. So at best, the Rams finish 12-4. They might be an 11-win team, seeing how things go. At best, 12-4. So that, again, I mean, the Eagles, they continue to take care of business. Just like they should against the Bears. As long as they continue to take care of business, they have home field advantage. That's the basic theme and sentiment I have week in and week out here. They win, they take care of business, they're on the home field advantage. And I guess the question then is, are the Saints a threat enough on the road that they're going to beat this Eagles team? And again, I continue to say, how a lot of these teams, I mean, I guess the Vikings kind of showed the Rams this week that Vikings have a defense. Just like this Eagles team, without question, has a front seven. And in recent days, that's something that, the Saints can't say they've played. Or the Vikings. The Rams got a taste of Vikings defense. So, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm getting at here with all, like, a lot of these teams, Dak Prescott, he got it without Ezekiel Elliott especially, he got a taste of this Eagles front seven. I mean, he was taking a pounding. Just like week in and week out, this front seven dishes out a pounding. And just like week in, week out, this quarterback makes plays. And just like week in and week out, I got to hand it to Doug Peterson and Deuce Staley. I mean, this running back rotation is working. I mean, I've said, I've been a fan more of all right, you got a primary back and maybe a change-up guy every now and then. But this rotation thing for the Eagles is working. You know, it's like a three-headed monster. And some weeks it's been Smallwood instead of Clement. Sometimes Kenyon Barner. You know, of course, with the acquisition of Jay Ajayi gets some touches. LeGarrette Blount. And this week it was Corey Clement. It worked pretty darn well, didn't it? So we're going to close out this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Again, like, I don't know what much there is to say about the Chicago Bears game this Sunday. They're coming in here, and the Eagles team should win. I mean, I don't know how else to word it.
It sounds great.
Thank you, De Niro. Yeah, they should just take care of business like they do. And then after that, we will have the Seattle Seahawks, the trip to Seattle, to discuss right here on the Tyler Werner Show. But until then, go Eagles, go Flyers, get themselves out of this 4-game losing streak, and go process, a.k.a. the Philadelphia 76ers, if you will. And we'll talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and stay tuned for the next edition of the Tyler Werner Show.
I love turkey on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.